An inflatable boat, 10 Marines, and a rope ladder banging over and over against the side of a tanker that has gone silent after 3 radio calls. Right below them, less than 6 feet away, is water no one has been willing to declare clear of mines. That is what a selective blockade really looks like at nearly 0 altitude. Pull back to the chart, and the picture becomes even more unsettling. 21 nautical miles of navigable water, 138 ships passing through each day, nearly 1/5 of the world's oil. The United States Navy has been ordered to shut this route down, but only the Iranian part of it. And the problem appears instantly. How do you stop one country's ships while still letting every other nation's ships pass through a corridor narrower than the length of Manhattan? A place filled with mines that do not signal their location, suicide drones flying low beneath the radar horizon, and high-speed attack boats that look exactly like fishing vessels until the instant they explode. A destroyer can launch a Tomahawk from more than 100 nautical miles away. An aircraft carrier can drop bombs on target from the far side of the Gulf, but neither of them
Captain,
can climb
you need to
onto the
board
deck
now.
of a tanker,
On whose authority?
check the
Show me
cargo
papers.
paperwork,
Right here.
and decide
It's
in
cleared.
30 seconds
This
whether
isn't
the
enough. I
crew
need
is carrying crude
They're
oil
too far. We
or
act
hiding
now.
weapons. That job requires eyes at close range and boots physically on the deck. No sensor can replace a Marine looking straight into a captain's face. To selectively choke off one country's maritime economy while still keeping the world's oil flowing, the United States has to possess 3 capabilities at the same time that no other fleet on Earth can currently bring together. Every weapon system the U.S. Navy has refined over the past 70 years was built for a very different environment. Deep blue ocean, vast open space, forces separated by hundreds of miles, radar that sees far, missiles that fly far, and stealth that matters because there is almost nothing else on the screen. Hormuz breaks all of that logic. At only about 21 miles wide, this strait compresses the world's most advanced naval force into a space smaller than the radar coverage of a single aircraft carrier. The water is shallow, with shipping lanes only about 200 feet deep. The coastline is cluttered with islands, inlets, and harbors that create countless radar reflections. And moving through that mess are fishing boats, oil service vessels, coastal freighters, pleasure craft, and hundreds of civilian contacts that form a wall of noise on every sensor aboard every warship. Iran understands that geometry perfectly. The Navy of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps does not fight in blue water. It fights in the clutter. Paykop-class fast attack boats, with a displacement of only about 14 tons, hide among fishing vessels of the same size, the same radar cross-section, and the same speed. The difference is that a Paykop can carry 2 C-704 anti-ship missiles, enough to cripple a frigate. But beyond visual range, it still looks exactly like a fishing boat. Added to that are Shahed 136 suicide drones flying about 300 feet above the water, leaving radar returns that are almost impossible to distinguish from seabirds or wave clutter. And beneath the surface are mines, possibly thousands of them, lying motionless on the seabed and waiting. The enemy the U.S. Navy cannot simply outrun, outshoot, or outspend is not any single type of weapon. The real enemy is target discrimination in a suffocatingly chaotic environment, where nearly every advantage of a blue water navy gets stripped away. The U.S. Navy's answer does not come from the ship most people would think of first. USS Abraham Lincoln stays outside, CVN-72 holding position in the Gulf of Oman. Its air wing can strike any target within a 300-mile radius, but 300 miles is too far to read hull numbers, count people on deck, or determine whether a dhow is fishing or carrying C-704 missiles. The carrier provides the umbrella, but another ship has to walk into the rain. That ship is USS Tripoli, LHA-7, weighing about 45,000 tons and stretching 844 feet long. It carries no Tomahawks, no Aegis radar, and no vertical launch cells. What it carries is something a destroyer or carrier cannot replace at Hormuz: organic surveillance across 3 altitude layers at the same time. At the highest layer are F-35B stealth fighters. Tripoli can carry as many as 20 of them, more combat aircraft than the air forces of most countries. But at Hormuz, they are not mainly dropping bombs. They are flying surveillance orbits at around 25,000 feet. The reason is the AAQ-37 system, also known as the Distributed Aperture System, which uses 6 infrared cameras mounted around the aircraft to provide full 360-degree coverage. The pilot can see through the airplane using the helmet display, but the real value at Hormuz is that those cameras can look down from nearly 5 miles up and track every ship on the surface at the same time, classifying them by thermal signature. A fishing dhow running a small diesel engine produces a heat pattern very different from a paycat boat idling with a larger turbine. DAS can see that difference. The pilot does not need to dive lower. A $109 million stealth fighter, built to dominate air combat, has now been turned into a giant surveillance camera circling over a shipping lane. That is the trade-off. Every hour an F-35B spends watching tankers is an hour it is not intercepting Iranian aircraft or striking missile launchers. But at Hormuz, knowing which vessel to board matters more than knowing where to drop a bomb. At the middle layer are MH-60 Seahawk helicopters. Tripoli carries an entire squadron of them. They fly low, about 200 feet, close enough to read hull numbers painted on the bow, close enough to count sailors on deck, and close enough to see whether the fishing nets are wet. A vessel that claims to be fishing but has dry nets is almost certainly not fishing. That kind of confirmation cannot be replaced by satellites, radar, or infrared sensors. In the most important moments, the human eye at close range is still the final tool of discrimination. Down on the surface are Task Force 59's GARC unmanned boats, about 16 feet long, moving at more than 40 nautical miles per hour and operating autonomously in the shipping lanes 24 hours a day. They use AI to classify behavior, which vessels have AIs turned on, which have deliberately gone dark, which have changed course without explanation. During Operation Epic Fury, GARC platforms logged more than 450 hours underway and covered 2,200 nautical miles, marking the first time AI-enabled unmanned surface vessels were deployed at scale during an active blockade. These 3 layers combine into a target list updated in real time. F-35Bs handle thermal classification from above. Seahawks provide visual confirmation from the side, and GARC tracks behavior on the surface. Tripoli ties it all together into a threat priority board. Picture airport security, except the conveyor belt is moving at 30 nautical miles an hour, carrying 500 bags a day, and 3 of them contain explosives. You cannot stop the belt. You cannot inspect everything. You get only one shot at each bag. That is Tripoli's job, day and night. But having a target list is only the first step. Someone still has to climb onto the ship, and that job does not belong to an F-35 or a drone. It belongs to 10 Marines in a rigid hull inflatable boat. Here, the central contradiction of every modern blockade comes into focus. The United States possesses some of the most sophisticated standoff weapons ever built. Tomahawks that strike from thousands of miles away. Long-range anti-ship missiles that find their own targets. SM-6 interceptors that engage threats at the edge of the atmosphere. All of them are meant to keep American sailors as far from the enemy as possible. And yet in the end, they still have to send 10 Marines in an RHIB up against the side of a ship, climbing a rope ladder while that vessel may already be booby-trapped. Every piece of technology the U.S. Navy owns, from Aegis radar and E-2D Hawkeye early warning aircraft to Virginia-class submarines hiding beneath the strait serves one remarkably simple purpose during a blockade: to create a safety bubble large enough for those 10 men to climb that ladder and stay alive. That procedure is called VBSS, or Visit, Board, Search, and Seizure, and it unfolds in 5 stages: identification, matching AIS data against Tripoli's target list; query, hailing the ship on Channel 16 and ordering it to declare its destination, cargo, and flag state; warning, if the answers are unsatisfactory, the vessel is ordered to stop; boarding, Marines fast rope from an MH-60 or climb up from an RHIB alongside; then search and seizure, opening every compartment and checking every hold, with each boarding taking anywhere from 20 minutes to 2 hours. Multiply that by dozens of suspect ships a day, and it becomes clear why 2,200 Marines aboard Tripoli and its escorts, together with the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit, have to operate in continuous rotation. An entire amphibious force built for assault suddenly turns into a floating police station.
If Tripoli
Imagine a
cannot move,
multi-billion-dollar
Marines cannot
missile
reach
defense
targets.
shield made up of satellites,
An insidious
radars, and
minefield blocks the
interceptors,
path.
all online for one reason only: to keep a customs officer safe while opening a container that may be rigged to explode. This threat is not theoretical. Iran is believed to have collected about $2 million from each commercial vessel passing through, a kind of protection racket enforced by fast attack boats and the threat of mining. U.S. boarding teams must stop even ships that have already paid, operating in international waters under rules of engagement that require visual confirmation before force can be used. But boarding only works if the corridor remains open. If Tripoli cannot move through the strait, the Marines cannot reach their targets. And right now, on the seabed between Tripoli and those targets, are thousands of objects designed for one purpose only: to make sure it never gets there. To find a weapon built to be invisible, the U.S. Navy has to deliberately strip away almost every advantage it has. Destroyers shut off active sonar, cut speed to a crawl, and minimize electromagnetic emissions. A 9,000-ton warship designed to dominate the electromagnetic spectrum now voluntarily goes quiet because the weapon it is hunting does not emit, does not move, and does not communicate. It just sits in the mud and waits. Iran has seeded the Strait of Hormuz with mines since February 28th. There are contact mines, influence mines, and rising mines. And the detail many people
Optical
miss
sensors
is that
struggle in
even
murky
Iran
conditions, failing
itself
to see through
cannot
mud.
pinpoint the
Knifefish's
full
sonar
locations
penetrates
of all
3
the
feet of
mines
silt,
it laid.
clearly identifying the mine.
When mines
Sonar
are
provides
deployed
the
from
crucial
small
visibility
boats in
optical
rough
sensors
seas
cannot.
at night, without precise GPS logging, many of them become orphan mines, absent from any map, including the maps of the very force that laid them. Iran cannot simply go back and remove them. Iran cannot deactivate all of them either. The minefield will remain until someone clears it by hand. The U.S. Navy's main tool for that job is Knifefish, an unmanned mine-hunting vehicle built by General Dynamics, about 19 feet long and 21 inches in diameter. It carries a low-frequency broadband synthetic aperture sonar that creates high-resolution acoustic images of the seabed. This kind of sonar can do what optical sensors cannot: see through mud and sediment and distinguish a mine buried under 3 feet of silt
Mines
from a
not
rock
cleared.
of similar size by reading the differences
Tripoli
in
cannot
acoustic
move safely.
reflection. Knifefish crawls along autonomously
Boarding
at
teams
about
cannot reach
4.5
suspect
nautical
vessels.
miles an hour, scanning one corridor after another for up to 16 hours per mission. Finding a smart mine buried in the mud of Hormuz is like searching for a phone that has been powered off, wrapped in plastic, buried under nearly 3 feet of sand on a 21-mile beach, and that phone turns on only when it hears your voice. The entire multi-billion-dollar sensor network above the surface, from F-35Bs and Aegis to GARC and Hawkeye, becomes nearly useless at this level. The most advanced fleet on Earth gets dragged into a fight between a robot and mud. And time is merciless. Every day the mines are not cleared is another day Tripoli cannot move through safely. Every day Tripoli cannot get through is another day boarding teams cannot reach suspect vessels. Every day the boarding teams are left waiting is another day Iranian oil keeps flowing. The mine does not have to sink a ship. It only has to delay things long enough for the blockade to lose credibility. On April 11th, the U.S. Navy made its move. USS Frank E. Peterson Jr., DDG-121, and USS Michael Murphy, DDG-112, transited the strait to establish what CENTCOM called a new corridor, an alternate passage verified to be mine-free. Two 9,000-ton destroyers led the route-clearing effort, accepting direct risk and proving the path with their own hulls. That is what mine clearance looks like in real life. Not just robots, not just sensors, but steel ships with flesh and blood crews moving through water they still cannot be absolutely certain is safe. Because a blockade requires an open corridor, and that corridor does not open itself. If you look at each piece separately, you see three different problems: a surveillance problem, a boarding problem, and a mine clearing problem. Three kill chains, three kinds of physics, three different timelines. But there is one question none of those pieces can answer on its own. If the most powerful navy in the world has to maintain three simultaneous kill chains just to selectively block one country's ships in a strait 21 miles wide, what does that say about the true nature of a blockade in the 21st century? The answer changes the entire frame. This is no longer a 20th century blockade, a wall of warships drawn on a map with orders to shoot anything that crosses it. That model would choke off 20% of the world's oil supply and turn every allied nation into an economic casualty. A wall blocks everyone. The US Navy does not need a wall. It needs a valve. That valve has to open for Saudi tankers and close for Iranian crude. It has to let Japanese LNG carriers through while stopping IRGC fast attack boats. It has to adjust ship by ship, hour by hour, in real time, based on intelligence that is 30 seconds old, not 30 days old. And if you look again at Tripoli's sensor layer, from F-35Bs and Seahawks to surface drones, you can see that it is no longer just a weapons system. It is a classification engine. Radar is not finding targets to shoot. It is finding targets to sort, pass, or stop. The $109 million stealth fighter is no longer just a combat aircraft. It is a customs scanner with afterburners. This entire system, from the carrier strike group, destroyers, and amphibious ship to the thousands of sailors and billions of dollars in Aegis operating time, is deployed not to win a naval battle, but to operate an economic valve with precision. The goal is to cut more than $100 million a day from Iran's oil revenue, while still keeping energy flowing to the rest of the world. Iran built its choke point strategy on one powerful assumption. If it threatened Hormuz, the world would restrain the United States in order to protect oil prices. But what America built instead is a machine capable of choking Iran's economy right there in Hormuz, while still keeping oil prices at levels other countries can tolerate. The choke point weapon has been turned back on its owner. And that leads to the larger question few people are asking. A carrier strike,
how many navies can actually play this
game? An amphibious assault ship carrying 20 stealth fighters, AI-enabled surface drones, unmanned underwater vehicles crawling through minefields, 2,200 Marines rotating through boarding operations, hundreds of hours of F-35 surveillance, billions of dollars in Aegis radar time. All of it mobilized, not to destroy an enemy fleet, but to selectively strangle one country's economy while still keeping the world's oil moving through a corridor 21 miles wide. That is the real cost of controlling a choke point in the 21st century. So the question is no longer whether America can do it. America is doing it right now. The more unsettling question is, how many navies on this planet can actually play this game? France has one aircraft carrier. The Royal Navy has two, but it does not deploy F-35Bs at this scale. China has 3 aircraft carriers, but it has never carried out a contested choke point blockade in a truly hostile environment. Russia's Navy struggles to guarantee even a stable transit from the Baltic to the Mediterranean without breaking down. And for the countries that cannot play this game, the economies that depend on choke points they cannot control for themselves, what happens when their route is the one under threat? If Malacca tightens, if the Taiwan Strait heats up, if Bab el-Mandeb closes again, who will build the valve then?